Welcome back to another episode of Zack's Odd Garage. Today we will be buttoning up everything we need to start the engine on my motorcycle. There are some clips previously of me putting the bolts in and getting some brackets in place. Today we are going to be finishing a few wiring things, putting the carburetors back on, the gas tank on, and I'm not going to connect the rear tire with the chain just in case there's any issues with the engine. I don't want to have to take that all apart again. So enjoy. I'm Zach and this is my odd garage. We're here with my 2005 Suzuki GS500, who probably looks a little bit different since last time. As you can see, the engine is sitting in the right spot. It is resting on blocks right now. I had Kenley help me while she was here this weekend. Got it lined up. We popped in 2 of the 4 supporting bolts that go to the engine mount. There's 2 in the rear here. Then there's going to be 2 in the front. One goes here. The other one is down below through the bottom. These are going to go through the subframe that sits right about here, which I had to take off obviously to get the engine out. Otherwise it would never come out if it didn't have a subframe. First thing I'm going to do is get the subframe back in, get those tightened up, and then we will pop the other 2 engine mounting bolts right through. I got all of the 6 of the subframe bolts tightened up. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my torque wrench and I'm going to set it to, according to the manual, 47.5 foot-pounds so that we can get those nice and snug. So you do it until you hear that click. Most torque wrenches are like that. There's some other styles, the digital beep at you. So I do it until I hear that. That click. Now of course our wrench is stuck. The reason it's getting stuck is because it gets wedged when you let it. Not liking the last 2. Okay, got all 6 torqued now. Now we can put the engine mounting bolts in, the last 2. So this one is going to be here. So it's got these big spacers between the block. This is the bottom one. It's got these other 2 spacers that you got to put in between the block in the mount. Okay. You're lined up. I don't want to go all the way, so I gotta put the spacer on the other side. Hitting the tab on the other side. This means we're not quite. So I just lifted the engine a little bit this way so it can snug right in. Should be able to. Yep. Got it on the other side. But they're not hand tight on that side. Now we can do our last one. It's got these big giant spacers because they're gonna fill with gas. Booyah. 4 for 4. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drop the nut first. We're going to torque all of these in as well. Okay, all 4 are torqued. The subframe's torqued, so the engine is in. Engine is officially in. Now all that's left to do is reconnect all the wiring, put the carburetor back on, and then reassemble the rear end because the chain is off. You have to take the chain off in order to get the engine out. Okay, we got a couple wires left. One of them's coming from the stator, which is what recharges the battery. This is coming from the kickstand, so when the kickstand goes down, the bike shuts off. I have my ground to the engine block. This is the vacuum control, both of these. And then I have my coil that goes right to the positive of the battery. The coil sends the spark to the spark plugs eventually. I also have my battery that I had on the charger. I'm going to plug it back in on the charger once we get it all hooked back in because I'm probably going to start this tomorrow morning. It is pretty cold tonight. Up the battery leads are where they need to be. I didn't do everything super neatly. I'm gonna redo it, but I just want to make sure it runs, obviously. I uncovered the carburetors. Everything is still attached for the carbs. I'm gonna pop those back into these boots and then we'll plug this side of them. I also think I need to put the clutch cover back on because on this bike you have to pull in the clutch to start it. So we will work on that. And the The vacuum will get hooked up once the carbs go in. I didn't mention the throttle position sensor, so it tells the computer where the throttle position is. Okay, so carbs are in. You saw I was pushing a lot. I think it's because the rubber's cold. It's cold out. The vacuum line, this is going to go to the petcock when I get the fuel tank over here. We'll do fuel next. I'm also going to connect the spark plug wires, so don't forget. Those just snap in. Next thing I want to do is get that clutch cover on. What this does, actually let me cut it off. Okay, so what the clutch cover does is it turns the motion from pulling this wire cable from the handle into rotational, which pushes a pin on this side of the engine in to engage and disengage the clutch. So I've got my template that I punched out when I took it out, so I didn't forget which way is up, and I punched them in order. I'll probably put 2 or 3 in, just because really it's just for the starting of it. It's just to pull that clutch in initially. I'm not driving it. The chain's not even hooked up. So I'll just put a couple of these in. I decided to put them all in because the plate wasn't sitting all the way in. The clutch didn't feel right. Now it feels a lot better. Way tighter. And I can hear good engagement. So I don't think I mentioned this before, but this engine is air cooled. It has a tiny little radiator that has oil running through it, and the oil connects down here where I'm shining the flashlight. There's an in and an out. I got these crush washers to be used on each side. That just protects everything, and it doesn't allow the bolt to strip into this, into the block, or into these. I also need to put a new crush washer on the bottom of the oil pan where I drain the oil. So we're gonna do that. Okay, so here is the bolt. You can see it's got holes in it. The oil flows through it and down the center. I'm gonna put a crush washer on one side through this. Put one on the other side, and then it can go back into the block. So I just found out that there is still some oil left in the engine. No surprise. So after a bunch of fussing, I still can't get the crush washer off the oil pan screw. So I'm gonna jump to the fuel and then hopefully I'll get that off. So I got the petcock out. It's got 3 lines. So do a little zoom in. The petcock controls the fuel flow. Most engines have them. If anything, they have a basic one with a reserve tank. The reserve tank's usually a gallon of gas. In case you run out, you can swap to the reserve tank. So on this one, the reserve tank's up. I also have PRI, which stands for primary. This dumps a bunch of fuel into the carbs on some time when you're basically like haven't started it in a while. It dumps some fuel. And then there's on down below. On is normal running, primary is a lot of extra gas, reserve is in case you run out. Most engines are just on off and reserve. So it's interesting this one doesn't have the off. And then our 3 lines, there's 2 to the fuel tank, 1 main, 1 for the reserve tank, and then this 3rd line goes right to the carburetor. We could probably permanently install this. So I'm gonna get the screws for that. It goes on the other side and okay, the petcock's in. I can now hook up the vacuum, which actually is how the gas is controlled. It's all by vacuum pressure. Goes there. And then the 2 fuel tank lines are gonna sit over here. And then now I could hook up this carburetor line, which is oddly closer than I thought it would be. Okay. Carb's hooked up. And that, boom, boom, boom. I got the tank behind us. Got a little bit of fuel left. Should be enough. So the tank sits roughly there. This is just like a vent line. I had it plugged. Now I can see where we're hooking stuff up. I can pull this one. We got our tubes here. Should both be here. And the longer one goes to the short. We got our fuel lines hooked up for now. There's also a shut-off switch on there, which I'll activate when we get closer to being ready. This son of a gun. Okay. So now we got our drain plug, and I can put the new washer on it. We'll put that in. Okay, I'm gonna hook up the battery. Battery's hooked up. Let's see. Got lights. Okay. Now we need to add oil, and we should be all set. So this oil cap has the dipstick on it. This engine calls for 10W40. I'm using Yamalube, I like them. Suzuki oil is more expensive and harder to find. It calls for 3 quarts. This is a gallon, which is 4 quarts. So I just have to watch the line when I get close to 1. So I stopped right around where we needed to be, just in case there was too much. You don't want to overfill because too much lubrication will make everything spin more. Alright. Fuel is on. Now make sure the petcock is on. I'm gonna get some starter fluid just in case. Liquid Courage. He's on. That's on. Either blow fuse or something got disconnected. Thanks for watching another episode of Zack's Odd Garage. You heard this fire up. It sounded terrible because there's no exhaust on it, just like bubbling. It was very weird. I have some work to do. Clearly it's not getting fuel for some reason because it only runs on starter fluid. Tune in next time maybe for another video about this. Snowblower maintenance, that is more likely to be next week. The hit miss coating I gotta put in. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see next. Follow me on Instagram. Have a great weekend.